Hello class, we'll be learning to set up and apply behaviorism in a physical classroom. This will be the contents. For context, during 2023 and 2022, I was a co-teacher at Best in Class Education. In addition to being a weekend tutor at the same organization, my co-teacher wanted to create an understandable agreement with the students ranging from elementary to middle school. Our learning outcomes include teaching teachers to use positive reinforcements, negative reinforcements, and punishments in role creation. Our audience are teachers, but some of the instructions are for students. We will focus on three traits first, coming from the contingency contract section, which was used to create written or oral agreements with students and their parents that specify what responses must be made and what reinforcements will be earned. Fairness. The contract between teachers and students must be fair, and reinforcement should be in a good relation to the effort required to obtain it. In other words, something cannot be deemed too much work. Gage's example is telling a student that if she passes French, that she'll be taken out to the movies. However, passing French is so much greater in magnitude than that of the reinforcer, which would be, again, just going to the movies. State clearly in the contract what must be done, because the contract must be understandable. In order to be honest about the contract, that is, the contract must be carried out immediately as specified. Remember, you are engaging in a contract with these students. They must be able to trust you. If they do not trust you, they may not engage in the way you want. You are also supposed to be a role model for these students. Operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a form of learning where behavior of interest is emitted, more or less spontaneously, without being elicited by any known stimuli. One of the last traits in the inclusion of contingency contract is positive reinforcement. But what is it? Positive reinforcement occurs when, following behavior, something positively valued is given to a student. And in this case, in a general context, cheese is given to a rat for exhibiting good behavior. Positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement in classrooms can come in many forms, such as physical stickers, verbal praise, or physical symbolic things such as a high five. There's also activity time, such as hangman, art time, and other entertainment. These can come in hour-long blocks or can be shorter in the form of recess or other activities. Students can also choose from special topics for future classes to really get them engaged. Here is some of the art that the students did for my class, and here are some of the topics that they chose. Teachers may ask the students, if they're kind of absent-minded about what the students want, what can we add to the class to make it more fun? And then you have more positive reinforcements. Negative reinforcements. Negative reinforcements takes place when something negatively valued by a student is taken away. So, for instance, what if they don't have to redo homework or classwork because they got it right? Or you could remove verbal criticisms because their grammar was correct on these sentences. Sounds great to me. And you may ask your students, if having trouble come up with examples, you can ask them what would they remove in the classroom to make them feel better. Then we move on to punishment. The presentation of adverse stimulus contingent upon a response that reduces the rate of that response, such as that of a red card. Types of punishments include presentation, removal, and timeout and response costs are type of removal punishments. Presentation punishment is giving of something of negative value after an unwanted response, such as names on the board and associated added marks for more misbehavior, adding apologies, or parents being called. Removal punishments consist of taking something away of positive value. That's why positivity is going in the trash can right there. So this can include taking away toys, books, and other entertainment values temporarily, or taking away tokens of positive marks. Removal punishments include being a procedure in which a teacher deprives students of an opportunity to obtain reinforcement. And as you can see, a referee in this sense is taking out a student or a player that cannot get any points now. Response cost. because of an inappropriate behavior, some of the reinforcement previously attained is removed, and it is unlike presentation punishment, which presents an adverse event for an inappropriate behavior. So here's an example. Student A answers correctly, but speaking out of turn is against the rules. Student A then has to share the reward with the person that waited for their turn to speak. Reasoning may be a good alternative to punishment, but as Gage and Berliner say, this option seems to be more effective with some punishment included. And you may ask, how often are you going to do positive, negative, and punishments? They're ultimately your choice, but let's look at some choices. First of all, do we have a term for how often? This would be a reinforcement schedule. Rules stating which instances of behavior will be enforced. In some cases, a behavior may be enforced every time it occurs, which would be continuous. Let's look at the different types of reinforcement schedules now. So we have fixed ratio. A specific number of responses occur before reinforcement. Children receive candy for every time they get a correct answer. That would be continuous because they get it every time. Then we have fixed interval. After a specific time of classwork, a child is rewarded verbally. This could be in the sense of, hey, you've been working hard so long, good job. Then we have variable ratio. Varying number of responses occur between rewards and responses. An example is a child receiving a reward after turning in a varying amount of homework. We also have variable interval, varying time frame and elapses before response and reinforcement. A child receives a sticker for reading varying amounts of time in a book. Also, a note on reinforcement schedules. You should switch from continuous to intermittent reinforcement, as it's kind of impossible to reinforce every single correct response. But remember to tell your students because of honesty and transparency. And then we can put the rules up, and the students can look at all the rules and bylaws. And after each activity, the teacher will have to provide positive, negative reinforcement and punishment as shown in previously, with some adjustments for students. And that is all we learned about today. Next up is cognitivism.